So the common challenge is a little bit of what we did for both of those companies. Almost every company, when they get over, let's say, 50 employees all the way up to hundreds, they have got some key challenges that are holding them back. It's affecting their EBITDA, is causing problems in operations.
Welcome to the Iferia TechCast, where we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today we are joined by Eric Garrison, the founder, CEO, and CTO of WTE Solutions. With over 25 years of experience, he's helped everyone from Fortune 500 companies to local churches design and deploy real-world tech from cloud infrastructure to AI. His journey started not in a server room, but in his father's laundromats, fixing washers and dryers. He even left a dream job running the online division for Marvel Comics to start his own company. In this episode, we'll explore how to make complex tech accessible and how hands-on problem solving shapes great leadership. So, Eric, welcome to the show.
Ezekiel, so nice to meet you today and have me on your podcast.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here and eager to get things started. So, quickly, let's dive in, Eric. Your career started in a very hands-on way, helping your dad fix washers and dryers in his laundromat. So, how did that early experience of troubleshooting physical machines shape your approach to solving today's complex cloud and software problems?
Yeah, so it does sound strange, but this was back in the 80s, and those washers and dryers were getting computer boards put inside of them. And that was something I was very good at understanding and being able to diagnose. My father was an electrical engineer. We had 3 laundromats in South Florida, and there's always stuff to fix there, and changers, and also had video games. So I maintained a lot of the stand-up old quarter-fed arcade games. Yeah, so it is kind of funny that that's kind of the origin point, but it also started me on the entrepreneurial journey. So not long after that, I actually started my first business and sold it not all that long later. And got some great experience there. But back then, when you built computers, you actually built computers. You bought the components, you put them together. So I would do that for other businesses down there. So as well as running the laundromats, it was also about being able to interface with the local businesses around the laundromats. Was a kind of a side gig I had. I've always had the side hustles even before it was called.
Fantastic. That's a really
Yeah.
interesting journey. So,
Yeah.
Eric, you had what you call a quote unquote almost dream job running the online division for Marvel Comics. So, what was the pivotal moment that made you leave Spider-Man behind to start your own company, WTE Solutions?
Yeah. So uh, it was a period where Marvel actually went into bankruptcy. So this was back in 1995. They had filed Chapter 11, 95, 96, somewhere around there. I was not able to keep growing and some of the divisions. I got to do great stuff. Started a number of the online websites for them. Did a bunch of things, starting with them in IT. But the .com boom was happening. I was starting a new company that was going to sell DVDs and music online. The side gig for that was I picked up when I was leaving Marvel Comics. A friend of mine goes, you know what, you're going to need some good income. I want you to meet these guys. We got a great project we're spinning up with Reebok and this up and coming basketball player named Allen Iverson. So I built the official Allen Iverson website. It's back when websites weren't all that popular. Not everybody had one. So I built the official Allen Iverson website for the clothing release in conjunction with Reebok. And then I followed it up the following year for Tim Duncan and created slamduncan.com so I worked with the NBA Rookie of the Year, their rookie years, 2 years in a row. And that really helped the career along. So then, had a couple of businesses, never have had any go out of business. I've sold them off. WTE Solutions today is a tech company that roots go back to 1999. I've owned it since 2003. It started up in New York as World Trade Enterprises, located up in Manhattan. Relocated to North Carolina right before 9/11 is what happened there. So all the operations from New York were moved to North Carolina right before that. But we've always had some deep ties to the Northeast. We're down here in North Carolina. It's been a second area that we service up there very heavily.
Fantastic. So, Eric, can you quickly give us an overview of WTE Solutions? So, like, what was your motivation behind starting the company? Was there a gap you saw that you wanted to fill with the company? And who is the company really for? Who are you offering services to? And who should, work with you?
Yep. So it originally started as World Trade Enterprises, and I acquired it in 2003, and it focused on e-commerce development. So it was kind of the custom development side and worked with a lot of newspapers and radio stations. Newsday newspaper, Chicago, newspapers, all the way out to California. We had them, but of course, being in the space of newspapers was not something that excited me. I knew that it was not going to be a business that was going to last for ever. It was one that was definitely in a state of decline. So we kind of pivoted and did a lot around with the e-commerce and took that into electronic billing and money movement for companies and got us into a security space where we're working on financial technologies as well as money movement technologies, and then branched into healthcare. So I had a big project with a major Massachusetts hospital network where we did all of the electronic billing for them. And that was a huge project because it was, I don't want to give out what the name of it was, but it was one of the biggest ones that most people have heard of in the country. But from there, it went into other areas, and today we service a number of healthcare companies. Actually, this afternoon I'm down to Charlotte to meet up with another healthcare company to help bring them technology that will change how they operate their business, give them a better pulse on what they do, and automate their processes for the good. Because this is a mental health one. So I've definitely made some good inroads in the mental health space over the last couple of years.
Fantastic. You wear the hats of both the CEO and the CTO. What does a typical day look like when you're constantly switching between high-level business strategy and deep technical architecture reviews?
Yeah, so I like the CTO hat much better than the CEO hat.
Hmm,
I never envisioned that I was going to be a CEO of the company. I definitely deal better with machines than I do sometimes with the people, but I am also the face.
interesting.
So it is funny. I've had to learn how to put the hat on to be on podcast webinars and speaking engagements. Um, those are the type of things that you do today as a CEO, especially around technology. The CTO hat is definitely something I enjoy. I've got a great base of people that are, manage the ops, the project management, and the day to day, which allow me to be able to flip those hats. So it's my team that makes it, able for me to be able to do that, and also to own multiple companies. So WTE owns part, or we've angel invested in a couple of brands, and also own a couple of other brands that we operate for partner companies and ourselves. So that's also an interesting transition that we've had as a company over time. But at the end of the day, yeah, right before this podcast, I was tinkering with code. I was sitting here trying to eke out this really hard query and try to get it to pull data from 5 different sources into a very logical format for me to show somebody in a couple hours. So yeah, can't take my fingers off the programming keyboard.
Great, great, great. So, your firm works with everyone from churches to Fortune 500s. What's a common technological challenge that surprisingly unites such vastly different organizations?
Yeah, yeah. So we've we've been lucky to work on small businesses that have grown, small businesses stay small business, all the way up to Carfax Science 37. Science 37 a couple years ago went public for a 1.4 bill, and it was our tech and our hosting for them going public on NASDAQ, as well as deploying technology for Carfax a couple of years ago. They got deployed to 44,000 dealers during the MVP, the largest MVP that we have ever done, and even warranted the CEO of Carfax writing a letter of congratulations to us for pulling off a project. So he expected us to get about 4,000 dealers, not 44,000 dealers. So the common challenge is a little bit of what we did for both of those companies. Almost every company, when they get over, let's say, 50 employees all the way up to hundreds, they have got some key challenges that are holding them back. It's affecting their EBITDA, it's causing problems in operations. I can show you on my phone texting with CEOs and CFOs. One company I was working with was able to get their closing process down from about 10 days on a month down to 5, which is monumental.
Mm.
Then, we just met with a company who is taking 20 days to close their month. And we call that being a groundhog effect, because, you're doing that same thing. And at the point you get your financials done for the previous month, it's almost time to start again. So it gives their finance team no time to plan, innovate, and get better at things. So we look for those. We call it, I'll keep it PG here, but we call it the BFP. So the big unfriendly problem that most companies
Mm.
have, that come into play. And normally, for the type of companies we're talking to, many of those big problems cost them $1 million or more a year in top line revenue, and can equate to $300,000 of EBITDA and something like that. So those are the type of things we like to fix. So
All right.
and
That's really outstanding. So, Eric, you've been in the game for quite a while. I think I heard you say you started the company in 2003 or so. Did I get that
yeah,
right?
that's right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's quite a
Prior to
long time ago.
2003, I was actually CTO of the company that owned it. So I was
Oh,
CTO of a company called MediaSpan, and that was a company that I was one of the founders of, and I spun this as well as ecom technology out, and then did some acquisitions. So
hmm,
yeah.
fantastic. So, having worked for decades in the same field, I'd like to ask, how has your, job evolved over time? With the advancement in technologies, how has it evolved, to what it is today compared to what it was 20 years ago?
Yeah, well, the thing that I find amazing is that we have some of our own data centers that we co-locate equipment in the data centers here in North Carolina, and the footprint of those installs have not really grown over the years. The amount of data has. So what we used to be able to do, and would have to have 7 servers, a load balancer, and big storage array, we're now able to do with a handful of servers, which gives us much
Hmm,
greater capacity. So the nice thing is we can handle, we have a website we host that gets over 1 million logins a month. So that type of hardware, you know, 10, 20 years ago was a ton of hardware, and a ton to have the redundancy on it. Today, we're able to put cloud-based, web app firewalls and load balancers, and then tier it between multiple data centers for a lot less cost than it used to happen. So the cost of doing business does come down, but we also step things up. So clustering, high availability, and shooting for that great customer experience. It used to be that um, we had to make sure customers always have to be happy, because no,
yeah,
they're always going to complain about the tech if you don't. And it used to be called customer service, and it should have been called customer no service. Now it's called customer experience, which means that we're also evolving the tech to be able to touch, track, and best serve up the data for the customer. And sometimes that customer is a CFO of a company, or the accounting department of a company, or HR. So it, that customer experience is not just outward facing to the end people on the end of a phone anymore.
great. I am curious about your process of making tech accessible. We like, for example, when a client comes to you overwhelmed by terms like Kubernetes, what's your go-to analogy or story to help them grasp the core concept?
Well, when it comes to like stuff like microservice Kubernetes clusters, um, we try not to get them to focus too much on that. That's just the high availability and scalability. So um, it's really there to give them the assurance that we can build a tech that's going to be able to scale. The terminology that we end up using in the frame of reference, we've over the years have built a lot of building blocks internally. We call them Lego blocks because there are pieces of technology that we have developed. There are intellectual property, they give us a leg up. A lot of development companies will start with ground zero and start with building the login table, the users, all of this. We don't have to. We've already got this great infrastructure and foundation to build upon. So we've got some content management, some user management, SMS, email, all of that figured out. We're not learning on the client's dime. We've invested in it already, and that allows us to get that turnaround time very quickly. Also gives them confidence because if you're starting up and going through and trying to work with a client who doesn't understand, especially if we're talking, when it comes to authentication and two-factor authentication and tying into their O365 via SAML. Those are the type terms that we try to, we'll talk when we're talking tech to tech or geek to geek communications, but we're not going to try to use that with the client. So we have our project management and people serving that sales role use more friendly terms of it, but then they also know that we've got the the high tech elements behind. We are also a little bit different in the fact that our tech team is all here in the U.S. and actually some of them are just outside my office. So we don't offshore a lot of things. We have offshored some tech to from partners, from time to time when we need extra hands on the keyboard. But the primary mode that we do is it is onshore, highly skilled technology specialist. So we try to stay always in the Microsoft and SQL stack that we know. APIs, web services, we know like the back of our hands, and those are the type of things that most people don't think about properly. They'll say, "Our HR application has an API. We should be able to get the data." Yeah, you should be able to. So, but now you got to do it securely and make it work. So that's
All right.
that's kind of how we approach that.
That's a really interesting one there. So let's talk about AI, Eric. Beyond the hype, what is one practical, high impact use of AI you are implementing for your clients right now that doesn't really require a massive data science team?
Well, we employ a lot of AI. So every one of our clients are benefiting from AI, whether they know it or not, because our teams are
Mm,
using it for design, for quality assurance, for writing scripts, for writing SQL, for proofing things. AI has got a very big impact in us. One thing I would say is data cleanup is a great one. A lot of companies have got some dirty data, and you got to do it right. I'm also a big fan of using things like AI to do data cleansing, but on a local model. So I've got a couple of machines that we run that have local LLMs, so we don't have to send the data across the wire to do that. Also, a great way of doing research on your total addressable market. I did a project for a client where we needed to build a list of a whole bunch of lawyers and look to see what the specific types of lawyers, how many estate lawyers are across the country, and bring back data on a lot of them that fit a particular pattern. We worked with the Google API to find them in the Google My Business, and then we used a local LLM to go and pull back and analyze specifically what we were looking for. That would have been about $4,000 worth of ChatGPT time to do that. It ended up running on the local LLM probably about $400, so about a tenth of the cost. If you're doing something small, the cost is not really high. When you start talking about hitting, um, you know, 50,000 web requests and analyzing that data. You got to watch what you're going to do on your token cost there.
All right.
Oh, and we also did in 48 hours.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Impressive.
There was no timeouts, no rate limits, no errors. It just ran, and that's part of why you use a local LLM for that predictability.
Fantastic. So, from your unique vantage point, what is the single biggest mistake you see companies make when they try to modernize their tech stack or move to the cloud?
They start with something really, really hard and think that they're going to fix the biggest challenge in their business with AI,
Hmm.
instead of starting with something that's small and repetitive. They're trying to get $100,000 win versus a $10,000 win out of the gate. So they start with a big vision too big before the team has a chance to do it. Number two is they think AI is just an easy button. Um, they think that because you can go to ChatGPT, type into the window, that is all that AI is. That is not all AI is. That's just a web interface on top of the AI. There's a lot more behind it. There's a lot more capabilities. So they're not thinking about it quite the right way. We were a user of OpenAI before they had ChatGPT. So we had a app deployed in healthcare that was using it to augment what we were doing with some tech. Probably 2 years before they called it ChatGPT, which was kind of fun when it came on the market. But that'd be the big thing is I think they're shooting for the moon instead of just trying to get the wheels off the ground and iterate from there.
Okay, so earlier in this conversation, we talked about how your role in the tech space has evolved over the past 2 decades or so. So now let's talk about what actually did not change. So looking back at your journey from the early internet at Marvel to today's AI-driven landscape, what has been the most constant, unchanging principle of good technology leadership?
Well, it's that's a great question, and I have a great answer for it. I hope. Um, Way back working there, Marvel. It was also Fleer Skybox Trading Cards. We owned so many companies at Marvel. Double Bubble Bubble Gum, the people that made the model rockets. But at the heart, what I learned back there was having good data on
Mm,
who it was. Back there, we wanted to know everything we could about the hobby shops and about the web teams. We were trying to find out who and where people were to learn about the customer. So data is very valuable. Having clean data that is reliable data is one of those things that gets overlooked. And I have clients sometimes who go, "Oh, we're just going to purge all this data." I'm like, "Oh, do we really want to purge, or have we extracted every bit of value and know that that's garbage data?" Because I had a client one time who, big company, who flushed $25 million worth of data on purpose,
mm,
and you're like, "Why? Why?" Management didn't see the value in it. Um, about 2 years later, I bet they were kicking themselves on that because then they had to go back to reacquire, reclean, and yeah, it was not in the best of state, but it also wasn't in the worst of state. So, making sure that you are building a model, of who the customer is, and trying to augment that data, and that's something that big companies like an AT&T or Verizon, Google, they do world class. I mean, if you look at the type of targeted advertising we all get on our streaming devices, they know so much about us today. And a lot of companies are not even making sure that they get people's cell phone numbers.
all right. So if you could get every business leader to understand one thing about technology that would save them time, money, and stress, what would it be?
Definitely hire good people and educate them on what the mission is of their department, and where they can help. Sometimes you have got a lot of generalists, um, that are making advice, but you need to have those hands-on people that are really good and are going to dive in and become the experts. In our area, we call it the SME, the subject matter expert. many times they don't wear that title. It's not something that's on their business card. They just happen to be the person in a business, in a organization that fell into that. Um, so there's a client that we work with that I refer to a particular person that she is the SME internally, but that's not something that's ever on her business cards. I'm not even sure she knows she is our SME for that product, but she definitely is. And those are the best type of champions because they know how the users are working with it. And sometimes they also know how the users are not supposed to be using it, but are hacking it to to make the system do something that they need it to do.
Okay, so Eric, what are you most excited about in the next wave of technology, and how are you preparing your team and clients for it?
Yes, I would say agentic is one of those things that is coming down. Is having the AI models that can not just react to what we're asking them to do. If you use a lot of the models today, especially around coding or content generation, you have to go back and back to it, multiple times. The AGI levels is hopefully going to allow it to say, check your own homework, and that is something that is definitely needed because on one of my webinars, I was talking about how Deloitte put out a report that had false citations in it. And that was a $440,000 report that had false citations in it because it didn't have that reality check and double checking of the system. So that is one thing that is very exciting. As for our future horizon, I think we're going to see the blending of quantum computing, which I think is still 10 years out from having much impact from it, as well as AI. So I think what you're going to have is there's a lot of potential for quantum computing to create the next wave of many pieces of technology, but you're going to need something like AGI to get the most benefit out of it because you don't have enough humans that are going to be able to maintain, manage, and work at the speed that the quantum computers are going to need to have that feedback loop.
Great. So, in your work, which is all about demystifying complex technology and making it work in the real world, so I like to ask a common question that I like to ask, that I ask majority of the guests, matter of fact, all of the guests I interview on this podcast. So, what does the word innovation truly mean to you?
Coming up with something that hasn't been done before, going into something that's a truly blue ocean. Um, so
Mm,
it's and that's something that so I created a company, actually one that was in a total blue ocean and one that type of model and one that is mostly blue ocean. It's hard for it's definitely hard for AI to come up with it, and the reason is it can't think about what has not been created. It can come up and based off of what has been created, but you still need that innovative, um, technology. So, yeah, I heard about Samsung coming out with a phone that, a foldable phone that will have three folds. That's not
mm,
innovative because somebody figured out how to do those seamless two fold, I mean, single fold. But here, that's not innovative. That is just refining technology. The innovative part was creating a new modern flip phone that is able to bend the LCD screen. Or, Steve Jobs coming up with the iPhone and saying, we're not going to have buttons on it. In a world where back then everybody was glued to their Blackberries and you had people that were
yeah.
Blackberry fanatics and I did have a BlackBerry for a while. I hated it. That keyboard is just terrible. My hands are just slightly too big to use something like that. And when
Oh,
I got
wow.
iPhone 2, and I'm like, oh, this is so much better than BlackBerry because I can flip the phone sideways and have a little bit bigger keys.
Mm.
Yeah, so innovation is definitely coming up with something that is new, something that's just being, inventing. But I think innovative is also, it has to fill a need. So the best innovation is I'm creating something that people want or need to fill this gap. So
That's a really incredible way to see the meaning of the word innovation, Eric. Thanks for sharing your own perspective with us. So
no, thanks for
finally,
you.
Yeah, great. For our listeners who want to cut through the tech noise and get clear, actionable insights, so where's the best place for them to contact you, follow your work or learn more about you and what you do, or perhaps get your resources?
Yep, couple places. Definitely look me up on, connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Eric Garrison, CEO. So it's just EricGarrison, CEO, is the handle there on LinkedIn. I get a number of messages on there. We do also have a YouTube channel where I put out a good amount of content. I give out content over there that I also get paid to go speak sometimes. Give it away for free. You get all the best stuff for free over there. Took a little bit of a Gary Vaynerchuk type of mode of going to give away the good stuff over there. So just look for WTE Solutions on YouTube is the other good place. Our website is WTE.net. The nice thing about being around the internet for a long time is my email address is nice and short. So, WTE.net is a great resource over there as well. There's a tech dictionary where we've got a bunch of the modern AI and technical terms that we try to write in a approachable format. So we kind of Wikipedia that type of tech on our site.
Fantastic. Eric, it's been a really insightful conversation with you, and I am totally excited and honored to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. So,